you get inner contentment and you get a lovely sense of peace. How will you get it? So, Krishna answers this question. He's saying, Asamshayam mahabaho mano durnigraham chalam abhyasena tu kaunteya vairagyena cha grihyate. No doubt, Arjuna, it is very difficult to control this mind. What you're saying is right. It's very, very difficult to control this mind. But through practice and through detachment, this mind will come under control. Through practice and through detachment. Through practice and through detachment. Some people don't mind practice, but they don't like the word detachment. So you got to do some practice, got to do some sadhana. And got to have some detachment, got to let go of many of your pursuits, got to let go of the self-seeking. Then the consciousness Shakti may settle down. Now when Shakti settles down, this is her state. She was a virago in the previous phase of her life. Disobedient, vagrant, termagant. So, not recognizing Shiva's existence, wanting independence, and roaming wherever she likes. Wherever there is food for the senses, there Shakti is roaming. You following this? And then, as a result of sadhana and detachment, Shakti comes and settles down on Shiva's lap. Shiva is awareness, and Shakti is movement. And Shakti has temporarily renounced her movement, has become very quiet. You want that to happen to you? Yeah, it has happened already to some of you, I know that. Already happened to some of you. But question is, can Shakti be rooted permanently to Shiva and only work when Shiva gives an assignment? Otherwise no. No independent trips. No independent trip to Mexico, no. If Shiva orders, yes. Through practice and detachment, it can come under control. So this is the theme, Shiva and Shakti, the cosmic dance. Got to see this dance in our consciousness, got to see it everywhere else also in the world. And when Shakti settles down, let us say, Shakti is able to settle down, she is becoming very poised, she has given up her mad activity, then Shiva comes into relief. Comes into relief fully. And what does that mean? Some light is not going to come from your heart, no. No light is going to come. But you're going to feel so good just being yourself. You're going to feel so good, so great, so happy, so peaceful, just being yourself. No desires to distract you. No temptations, no fickleness of purpose. You're not fickle. Not restless, not looking for sensory gratification, not going suddenly to phone your friend because you don't know what to do with yourself. So this is the state of the Atma Prasanni, the person in whom the Atma has become tranquil, has become very calm, very unruffled, given up all the restlessness, and this is where we got to reach. Okay. Now here is another test that the Gita is giving us. Do we have these qualities to be on the spiritual life? And doesn't matter if we fail this test, but we've got to know whether we are passing or we are failing. We've got to know one way or the other. Doesn't matter if we fail, don't worry about it. Amanitvam is absence of self-importance. Absence of self-importance. Then adambitvam is absence of pride. Then non-violent in action and in thought and in word. You can kill people with words. You can kill people with your thoughts. You can kill people with your hands. So ahimsa means in thought, in word and in deed, there has to be peacefulness and non-violence. Ahimsa, kshantir, peaceful. Arjavam, very straightforward. Not playing games. not being manipulative, not working with ulterior motives. Arjavam means straightforward. Acharyopasanam saucham. That is, having gratitude and doing service to your teachers. Then saucham is cleanliness, outward cleanliness and cleanliness in the consciousness. The consciousness must become pure. Stairyam, stability. Atma vinigraha, self-control. Shakti is controlled. Now these are the qualities that is needed for a seeker who is on the quest to actually discover God. He must already have these qualities. And when Shakti settles down in you, you become an Atma Prasanni. Then automatically all these virtues become your virtues. Automatically. They are not acquired. The moment Shakti gives up the mad activity and Shakti settles down, then immediately you'll find everything is in place. That is, no self-importance, no pride, no non-violence, peacefulness, straightforwardness, then gratitude to your teachers, cleanliness, stability, not fickle, being stable, then natural self-control. All these are automatically there. So, humility, unpretentiousness, non-violence, patience, straightforwardness, service to the teacher, cleanliness, steadfastness, self-control. All these virtues spontaneously arise in the Sthita Prajna state of consciousness. The Sthita Prajna state is one in which Shakti has settled down on the lap of Shiva. She is not interested in a personal agenda of her own. So one more test. Indriyartheshu vairagyam, that is, detachment from sense objects. Sense objects. Ice cream, nice food, lovely car, fast car, comforts and luxuries, all sense objects. A boyfriend or a girlfriend, sense object. Indriyartheshu vairagyam, anahankarmevacha, being egoless. Janma mrityu jara vyadhi dukkha doshanudarshanam. That is, you start thinking of birth and death and old age and disease and the darker side of life. You got to start thinking. And without thinking, without contemplating on the evanescent nature of life, on the passing nature of this human drama, that this human drama is a temporary affair, it's not going to last, that it is fraught with things like old age and disease and death, and it's got a darker side to it, an inevitable darker side. If you're not thinking and contemplating on all these sides, then you're not going to get detachment. Then you are in perfect ignorance. You've got to start thinking that this life is not going to last. Yadrisyam tannasyati. Whatever you see, it will perish away. Whatever the eyes see, that will perish. That has to become real for you. Not a book teaching. It's got to become real for you. So these are the qualities of being so indifference to the objects of the senses and to sensory pleasures, absence of egoism, contemplating the reality of birth and death, old age and sickness, sorrow and evil, and the above virtues spontaneously arise in the Sthita Prajna state of consciousness. Once Shakti gives up her mad activity and settles down in Shiva's lap, then you will find that all these virtues, they are just there for you for the asking. This is just there for you for the asking. You have not conquered them, you have not achieved them, they are just given as a bonus. The moment Shakti winds up her personal agenda. I know you are not liking my talk. Because Shakti wants to be active. Okay. I finished part one. I finished one important part. So now you've got to go into contemplation. And in this contemplation, you will ask yourself and you will look inwardly at yourself whether you have all the qualities which a good seeker after moksha should have, like detachment from sense objects, Is there any spiritual practice which you actually do to cultivate the detachment from sense objects? Or are you completely in a world of sensory indulgence, which is the opposite of the detachment from sense objects? Sensory indulgence and detachment from sensory objects, two opposites. So where are you? In which box are you? Got to think of that. Is there egoism? And is there a pretentious nature? Is there pride? Check yourself on all these things. Because these are the qualifications. And if these qualifications are there, you do find that they're all there. That means that you are blessed and that Shakti has given up her mad activity, and that is called surrender. The giving up of the mad activity is called surrender. But if Shakti has not given up her mad activity, then the virtues are not coming. Okay? So now you'll start contemplating in the first meditation.
Will you show it again, the virtues?
The virtues, of course, of course, of course. Okay. Please see. Indifference to the objects of the senses and to sensory pleasures, then absence of egoism, then contemplating the reality. This is very important. Contemplating the reality of birth and death, old age and sickness, sorrow and evil. It has to dawn on you that this life is a passing show. It has to dawn on you that this is not an everlasting party. No. Passing show. We just have to take the morning paper, and every morning we see in the paper somebody dying. A calamity in some part of the world. And that can very well happen even to us. So this life is a passing show. It's not a permanent thing which is going to be there for us.
Excuse me, but can't you only come to this stage when you give up on life? Because if you don't like ice cream, you don't care whether it tastes good or bad. If you don't like sex, you're saying you can only be ready for Dharma if you give up on those things.
No, I'm saying that if you get to the Sthita Prajna state, then all these virtues are there for you for the asking. You don't have to run behind them and acquire them like your conquests. When Shakti has given up her mad activity, then all the Sthita Prajna virtues which are mentioned here, they're there for you for the asking. There's no necessity to cultivate. On the other hand, Shakti can be very active, and you can be on the path of cultivation of these virtues, and it may be very difficult for you, it may be very easy for you, depending on your chart. For some it may be easy, for some it may be impossible, and when it's impossible, it will create a conflict in your life. And I'm going to deal with that conflict.
How can we know the difference between absence and lacking, for example, absence of egoism, or being indifferent? Like, just a matter of
Yeah. That you know yourself, you know very well when you are indifferent, and you know when you are egoistic, because there is a witness consciousness in each of us, and we know every thought and we know every feeling. And especially when you start taking interest in any thought or in any feeling, then you certainly know the texture of the thought, the texture of that feeling, whether it's a good thing or a bad thing. You know it. Nobody need tell you. It's a self-evident thing. Every human being knows this. Whether you're indifferent or whether it is egoism, you are the judge. There is no other judge who is going to sit above you and judge you and say, Alonso ji, this is detachment and this is something else. Nobody is going to say it. Even God is not going to judge you and say, this is like this is like that. You alone are that God who is going to sit in judgment on yourself. You alone. explore into the whole question as you're contemplating whether there is that Shiva in your consciousness which you can identify and you can touch, or are you all only the changing Shakti?
Contempla, a medida que te observas, si logras ver una conciencia testigo, Shiva, detrás de todos estos movimientos o dramas, o solo has sido Shakti, los pensamientos y sentimientos y el drama que nos cuentan. Contempla en ello. Y ser testigo. Observa dónde estás. Contempla si hay indiferencia hacia los objetos sensoriales y placer.